Hi everyone, and welcome to our first session of Impact and Influence. We're joined today by the fabulous Sarah Bell and Lauren. Hi Sarah, how are you?
Hi Kylie, very well. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Thank you for giving us your time. We know how busy you are. What's happening in your world at the moment?
Well, currently, most of the country, I'm locked down. But I think we were kind of chatting earlier that I work from home and have 4 kids, so I kind of am locked down. But what's strange for me is having everybody else at home. So it's it's challenging, but every day that we're kind of in this situation, it actually makes you feel really grateful for me. I think I invest time each day into making sure that I don't languish and I don't get upset about what I can't do, but actually concentrate on what we can do and where we might otherwise be. So I actually feel really lucky through this whole thing and very grateful to kind of be in Australia and be in this situation.
I think we're incredibly grateful, Lauren. We had our quarterly catch up earlier in the week and just tried to focus on that, that headspace and make sure that we're all in the right place. But in talking to, so many clients and friends and just trying to connect at the moment, there are so many people, doing it a lot tougher than what we are. And to be honest with you, how blessed are we to be in Australia? So I think, it's interesting times ahead, there's no doubt. But today is about staying positive and talking about all things Sarah Bell. And I really just want to spend some time today talking about what Lauren and I are seeing out there at the moment with health checks that we're conducting with businesses and things that we're seeing as far as strategy goes, leakage and opportunity, and talk to your amazing product that you've had out in the market now for how long?
So it's actually Rita's 4th birthday on the 28th of August.
Is it really? Wow. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you. In robot years, that makes her really, really old.
Years, huh? So for those that are listening, I'm sure that nobody in Australasia or New Zealand has not heard of Rita. But for those that maybe have been hiding under a rock, would you like to share with us what your technology is?
Yeah, 100%. So Rita is a platform that's powered by artificial intelligence and automation, and her job is to create conversations that build trust. And to do that, she uses the data that you've got stored in your CRM and also data from the marketplace and other sources, lead data, that sort of thing. And her job is to kind of mash that up and put the best people in front of you for the best reason at the best time. I think often we kind of overcomplicate technology and it's easy to do, especially with, emergent technologies like artificial intelligence. And, there's a lot of people invested in kind of feeling really smart, knowing what all of the $10 words mean when it comes to technology. But ultimately, I think we'll look back in 5 years' time and understand that artificial intelligence and this kind of intelligence revolution isn't a technological revolution. I think it's very much a renaissance and focusing us back on what we do best as humans while letting technology take care of a lot of the tasks that have been occupying our workflows. And so if we can kind of put them into machine and focus on the things that are uniquely human and uniquely valuable that we offer in the real estate transaction, then we've got a real chance to scale without diminishing our value.
And I think it's those mundane tasks that sometimes Laura and I find inefficient in a business or is causing leakage. Lauren, I know you've been doing a lot of work at the moment with our clients on efficiencies and health checks in their business. What are you seeing out there? What are common challenges or problems that you're seeing?
I think one of the biggest things is around that efficiency space and probably not evolving from where we used to do things. So, we get stuck in I'll call them habits of doing what we've always done. And maybe there's a fear around technology and as Sarah said, removing that task and allowing tech to take over that space potentially. For me, there's so much area for improvement around efficiencies in that task space, which we know cause everything that we drive is either around efficiency or profitability, but it can relate to both. So if you can remove the task and remove the function and allow that to be automated to allow then yourself or your team to have more time to connect with clients is only going to result in more sales, more property managements, whatever the end goal is, which results in more profit. So it's the efficiencies for me that then allow for that space around client experience and building client relationships.
And I think that those pillars of customer experience are so important, right? So the customer wants transparency.
Yeah.
They want information that's relevant to them. They want it at speed, and they want to be in control, and they want to reach out at the time of day or night that suits them. So Sarah, I still think a lot of people do not understand the term artificial intelligence or prop tech in our industry. And I think, there's a few buzzwords around that space. So putting it very simply for the people that are listening today, what would you describe artificial intelligence in real estate as, and the prop tech movement?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence, there's a definition that I learned that goes for about 2 pages, right? And it is it's just so wildly unnecessary. People will also define artificial intelligence kind of based on particular tools or technology. Like some people might define artificial intelligence, and really what they're talking about is machine learning or unsupervised machine learning. And that just overcomplicates it, because those tools sort of become, in and out of popularity during, and they're designed to solve particular problems. So artificial intelligence is one of those suitcase terms that doesn't mean a whole lot unless you unpack it. And it kind of encompasses a lot of different tooling and techniques that's used in kind of getting machines to pretend to be humans. And at its very most fundamental level, artificial intelligence is the ability for a computer to imitate human decisions. And that's really all that we kind of need to know. It's never going to be the same. But in terms of sort of making decisions that feel like they're human, algorithms are just a step sequence that a machine uses to think through and solve a problem in the same sort of steps that a human would. But they can just do it really quickly. They can solve lots of problems simultaneously, and they can process lots and lots of information at the same time from multiple different sources. So that's why we kind of can call those machines expert systems, which is sometimes what artificial intelligence is referred to as. And it's because they only really solve very narrow problems. They don't have to worry about, homeschooling or anything else. They can just solve these very, very simple algorithmic questions by thinking through those steps and then doing it very quickly and very accurately, because they do it at such a high volume.
If you were starting an office tomorrow, what are the top 3 things, taking Rita aside, because we'd all have Rita, we know that, but I'm curious with your background, and we'll talk about that in a moment. What are the top 3 things that you would implement into your business to provide better customer experience and impact for both your customer and people?
It's a really good question. The first one is kind of the bedrock of it is data, right? So you need data to start doing anything. All technology is dependent on having information stored somewhere, and I think we underestimate the value of that. There's so many gurus that stand up on real estate stages at sales conventions and tell everyone to get up earlier and work harder, right? But they underestimate the access to opportunity that a lot of people don't have. So when we do implement Rita, one of the things we do is kind of visualize the distribution of data between the team. And, our kind of proprietary data tells us that 40% of the industry don't have access to enough property ownership data to make 10 phone calls a day. So you can onboard a developing agent and give them a KPI, they're going to make 30 phone calls a day, right? But if they don't have 30 people to call, you're kind of structurally blocking someone from being successful and just kind of creating an impossible environment. So data is just so important. And far too often we think about data in terms of you know, spreadsheets and technology and CRMs and stuff like that. But all data is a community, right? So to sell real estate, you need a community to service. You don't sell houses, you sell your services to people who have houses. And so all data is taking information about your community, like where those houses are and who lives in them, and your kind of history of communication with that community, and organizing it. And once it's organized and structured, we call it data, but really it's your community. So in terms of, like, if I was starting a business tomorrow, hands down, the first thing I need to think about is having a community. Then once I've got a community, I've got a market, right? I've got an addressable market that I can talk to. So the next thing I would do is set about establishing how I would kind of provide value to that community, and then how would I do that in a way that would kind of differentiate me? Because I wouldn't want to be a real estate agent like that works for 0.5%. Okay, like I can't negotiate my fee down. I don't want to be like everyone else. So what is it about me that would provide value to that community? And information provides value to the community. And I think in terms of information, it's not necessarily about having access to data, because everyone can look at the sold section of realestate.com, right? Yes. Everybody's getting the emails, you know, directly from kind of these data houses of what their house is worth and stuff. So for me, the value that I could provide is interpreting that. And when I say interpret that, it would be what I do as an agent in terms with the current buyer cohort and that market data. So I would be wanting to have as many valuable conversations with people in my community as I could, where I was personally providing value in terms of my interpretation and that information, because the information is quite democratic. Everybody's got access to it, but what makes it different is me actually conveying it. So community and conversations, and then conversion. You know, I think we need to have tooling to make signing up listings and selling property as frictionless as possible. You know, I still know people that are you know, signing paper contracts on top of car bonnets and stuff like that. And you know, yes, there's something tactile and there's something beautiful about that, and maybe there is a place to you know, be anti-technology and just not scale. Like maybe there is a place for that. But I think in terms of kind of making that process as smooth as possible, and I didn't mean to be alliterative when you asked me that question, but I think community, conversations and conversion is really probably where the focus would be and the constraints that I would put myself into. And if it didn't hit one of those 3 business objectives, I probably wouldn't spend any time on it.
I think that's sort of a good health check or a good reflection. And I talk all the time in EBA, emotional bank account. And I always believe that every time you interact with that customer, you need to be offering something of value. And all those pillars that you've just spoken about are so incredibly important. I think the days of you know, sitting down at the phone and salespeople coming in and being told, you know, you've got to do 150 calls and you've got to have 30 connects and all the rest of it, is being far better off to do less but have more impact and provide more value is absolutely imperative. Now, you both know I talk a lot about EBA, emotional bank account, and I'm a big believer in that every time that you connect with somebody, either as a leader in your agency and it's your team, or you're connecting with your greater real estate community or your clients or prospective clients, that you need to be adding value every time. How does technology do that, Sarah? Like, how does it actually add value?
Well, I think technology's got the ability to either really obstruct that process or to really enable it. And that comes down to that strategic piece about, like, what is the business outcome that this tool is trying to achieve? And so if we look at, you know, if you look at, so automation is a technology that really uses to do things automatically without a human driver, right? But the reason that works with Rita is because she uses the data from the community side, and she uses artificial intelligence to kind of automatically do things in a way that would kind of imitate how a human would do it. But if you take the artificial intelligence out of it, you just look at automation, like, this happens, then this happens. So this website inquiry comes this templated email goes out with no kind of customization or personalization, I think you run the danger of, instead of depositing into the bank account, I think you run the danger of making a withdrawal. So somebody's trusting you with their information, and you're letting them know very clearly that they're just a number, because you're not adding any value. So adding value comes down, for me, it comes down to having relevant information. So it's got to be personalized about the client. I think customers are expecting even things like a response to their inquiry to be scenario specific. Like, I want you to answer. I don't want all of the information about the property in this, coming back to me in this template that goes for 100 screens. I want you to answer my question. So I asked about the rates and I asked for a price guide. Come back to me with just that, and then anything else I'll self-service. And so sometimes adding value is actually about editing in a noisy world. And in terms of kind of the conversations that Rita's suggesting, or the thinking behind that, we need to understand that 5% is about the average turnover of how many homeowners are selling in any one given area at a time. So you can call 100 people, but only 5 of them that will be thinking of selling that year. So just as important as it is to talk to those 5, it's also really important not to annoy the 95. And so that's why we've got to be adding value that isn't just, are you thinking of selling? Because 95 times out of 100, the answer is no. And so you're not adding any value. So there is perpetual value in terms of, helping somebody understand how their home compares. The joy of home ownership and paying your bloody mortgage each month is hoping that the price is going up. So somebody letting you know that dream is happening, is something of value. And I think far too often we just kind of go, you think you're selling, you think you're selling, you think you're selling, trying to put as many people into our, data model as possible. And you kind of end up with this soupy mess of cold, lukewarm interest, when actually we need to be editing out, well, you are not selling, so how can I provide value now for when you do sell? And so that's when that scenario specific and hyper personalized data can help to have those conversations that provide value based on the scenario of the individual, but doing it over time. So that, Tom Panos uses this beautiful analogy of like putting jelly beans in a jar. So every time you have a conversation with someone, it puts a jelly bean in the jar, and when they're ready to sell, if your jar is full of jelly beans, you're going in with that bank account kind of at its, definitely in credit. And you don't have to have a conversation about your fees then. There's no kind of demonstration of value because they trust you.
Yeah, the trust is built. And I think that's the thing, is most good agents or agencies that we're working with, they don't even ask if you want to sell or are you selling, because it comes from providing that community with value throughout their journey and their relationship with you. So obviously you are the person they go to because the trust is there. What we're seeing a lot of it at the moment, and I'm actually amazed by it, but people are going to conferences or seeing things online and they're like, oh, shiny and new, that's going to save us time. It's technology. We should get it and we should plug it in. And it's actually causing a lot of businesses a lot more pain than it is probably helping them with their people and with their productivity. What would your advice be around that?
Yeah, it is really easy to overcook this stuff. And there's you talked about the prop tech movement before, which I didn't really answer. So prop tech is this area of technology focused on the property services industry, and it's a bit of an offshoot of fintech, which was this massive movement that's serviced the financial services industry. So there's a lot of players in prop tech at the moment because it is such a lucrative industry. In terms of, being servicing Australia's most valuable asset class. So we need to be mindful that, there's a lot of solutions out there that, this is a commercial operation. And I think you need to very carefully edit the solutions that you bring into your business. So what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and is it a proven problem? So quite often I'm asked by people who have an idea for some prop tech or whatever, what do you think of this? And I always say to them, well, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? And they either can't tell me, or they're just really hoping it exists because they've got a solution. And so my advice would be to just really edit back what you're bringing into your business based on, that kind of strategic framework, the objectives that you're trying to achieve. The other thing that you've got to be really careful of when introducing technology is making sure that it connects to other systems, because what can happen is that you end up with data about customers fractured off in lots of different kind of siloed databases, and what you lose is that single source of truth that should be the entire history of your relationship. So with Reader, everything that you do in Reader goes back into your CRM, so that exists as a single source of truth about the history of your relationship with that customer. And because you've got all of the intelligence about that customer in one place, it's very easy to then discern what the next best right thing to do is. But what I see as a huge mistake is that the human being or the agent ends up being like middleware to kind of bridge the gaps between all of these different systems. And then they say, I hate technology, and I don't blame them.
And they go back to Excel spreadsheets. Yeah. So I know that it's at the bane of our existence. Why? So they're not hearing it from us, from Sarah, who's incredibly articulate and a lot more brain power in this technology space than Laura and I could ever wish to have. What is so detrimental and dangerous and a risk to a business and a producer around Excel spreadsheets?
Yeah, if I have one legacy in real estate, like I'd hope for something a little bit more noble than this, but it would be to actually just set fire to every single spreadsheet that exists. Spreadsheets are really designed to house raw data or calculate raw data. That's why they're full of formulas and stuff. But what I see is that a lot of people use them to replace like workflow. They use them as kind of like active work, and the issue with the spreadsheets is you haven't got the ability to really analyze and process rich data, and we're in the people business, right? The data that we're talking about is rich, it's robust, it's natural language. It's we're not ones and zeros here. We do not do accounting, which is what spreadsheets are really designed for. Like the dollars are there or they're not there, right? 1 0. But in real estate, we have emotionality, we have expression, we have sentiment. We have more than two actors in the deal. So we have a buyer, a seller, and a property, and we might also have a tenant, and we might have an investor. So the information landscape that we're dealing with in real estate is so much richer than a spreadsheet can cater for. And the thing about spreadsheets is because it's like a blank canvas, quite often people will architect their own little systems. And I've seen some really sophisticated ones that probably should become software, to be honest, but they architect their systems. But the problem is you can't then transfer knowledge about that system to anyone else. So you have people working in very private little silos. And and then the data doesn't connect to any other intelligence in the business. So you not only have gaps in your own spreadsheet, but you have gaps between your spreadsheet and the person next to your spreadsheet. And if you've got a sales client who's on your sales spreadsheet, they may have investment properties and you're not getting the benefit because their investment property doesn't fit on that line in that spreadsheet. So spreadsheets are wonderful for importing and exporting live data. They're great for doing calculations. They're great for doing, calculations and processing simple data sets to kind of experiment with things. But in terms of, the rich data and the functionality that you need to run a real estate business or manage relationships, they are severely wanting. So burn them. Or just delete them.
Absolutely, that central view of the customer. And Lauren and I see it time and time again with the Excels and the attitude, it doesn't matter, don't fix what's not broken. But the holes and the leakage, if it was actually sat on your P&L, I think there'd be a very different, if it was a raw number of the opportunities that were missed. And my advice on it is, guys, just sit down with your agents that are using Excels, because I can guarantee you they do not understand the technology. And if you've got to download apps onto their phone, you have to sit there on their desktop and show them actually an example of how to do it. What Lauren and I find is once you actually show them or download it and set it up for them, they're fine. But that barrier to entry, people are embarrassed. They're like, well, it's been working for a long time. So, so why change? Like, we'll just keep going. They actually don't know how to. And as you say, that macro experience and what you can do and elevate for your brand, your people, it'll affect your retention and recruitment of leads and people. So guys, if you take nothing else away from today, make sure that everything's aligned to, as Sarah said, connectivity, community, and adding that value for your connections. It's so incredibly important. Lauren, is there anything else that you're seeing out there in offices at the moment in this tech space, which is Sarah's world and she's so awesome at it, that you'd like to add or contribute or ask Sarah?
Oh gosh, Carls, I think Sarah's covered so much info today, and I think I'm definitely not seeing anything new to what she's seeing. I think maybe just, that proof in the pudding, Sarah, is there anything like, that you can, from those who are using Rita in terms of, like success stories, I suppose, around conversions and how that's helping people's business, for those that are maybe still sitting on the fence of should we, shouldn't we?
Yeah, no, 100%. So it was really interesting, Kylie, when you said if that lost opportunity sat on your P&L, what would you do with it? Was one of the things that Rita monitors. So we actually mash the data from realestate.com listings with the property owners that exist in the database, and we'll give you your kind of relationship share of the properties that came on the market and divide that into won and lost. And as well as kind of showing you that within the system and some really pretty donuts, we also email that report to you every week, so you can't really avoid it. And based on kind of the prices of those properties and what you would normally charge as an estimated commission, we give you back the estimated value of that lost opportunity. And it is worth millions and millions of dollars. So we did a 6-month study with a national group. It was a couple of years ago, actually, and so the numbers would only have gone up since then. And where we took all the property owners from all of the databases in about 175 offices, and mashed that against the listings on the market. They lost, and I'm not exaggerating at all, $750,000 a day across the network in commissions from property owners that were in their database going to competitor agencies. So granted, it was a big network, and you can scale those numbers down and work out what it costs to you. But I did an analysis for another agency that was sort of a 10-11 group office, and worked out that they're losing about $20 million a quarter. And it is just, the problem is, because if nothing happens, nothing happens. Like, if you don't know that, you don't know what you're losing. Yeah. So you think everything's working, but it maybe isn't. And probably the other thing that I picked up before, Lauren, that you were saying is this, efficiency and profitability are things that you really try and get people to focus on. And yet, when we kind of drill down into businesses, they are the same things. Like, for me, profitability is always a measure of how efficiently you're doing things. And so they are two very, very important things to look at. So if you haven't got a health check with these girls, like, find out what is going on with your profitability and your efficiency, because it's when you start to do some like attribution of the money that you're spending on marketing, what you're losing from the database and everything, you might be surprised at what a lead is actually costing you. If you're not working with the community that you have, and you're not talking to the database and making the most of that asset that you've built, and you're getting leads by spend on marketing, it's actually a really inefficient way to generate business, and that will affect your profitability. So, so often I see these massive brand campaigns and just money going head over fist. We'll do social, we'll do this, we'll do blah, 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 blah. And then no one spoke it to the property owners they already know in the database for quite literally years. So So in terms of like, you know, what is efficient, it's not always about doing extra stuff and spending more, and particularly in COVID, you know, cash is king. We need to, you know, we need to preserve that. So love the one you're with, to quote, you know, there's some famous 70s rockers. Love the one you're with, and just make sure that, you know, in terms of that community that you already have, it costs literally nothing, right? to actually make a phone call to those people. And so just don't waste that opportunity, especially while we're all sitting in lockdown at the moment, to have the conversations, because they're free, and we know that they're worth more than marketing, because they're building trust over time.
And now we're talking about profit. I'm getting excited, but I'd actually forgotten about that report. I used to get in a previous life, and that bloody graph, you know, all the red of the missed opportunity, and, you know, actually translating that then over to your financials. So we would look at that as a leadership team and go, oh, wow. So I actually forgot about that report. So thank you for bringing that up. It's incredible. Look, we are going to have another chat with Sarah in the future, until we can get into the studio and have a bit better quality video. We just really wanted to get this out to the greater industry, to think about, particularly in lockdown, some of the things that you should be reviewing in your business, where the leakage is, how you can be more efficient. If you are not using Rita, then you must engage with the team at AIR. It is just a 101 to compete and to provide amazing customer experience, not only to your potential clients and those that you currently got, but to your people. It's a great recruitment tool as well, because it will give people back more time to be in front of prospects and their current clients, to do more deals and provide better customer experience, which, as we all know, will add to that emotional bank account and just make everybody in the ecosystem happier and more productive. Sarah, thank you for your time. We're going to get you back, and we're going to find out a bit more about Sarah and who Sarah is and how you came to be, because it's a pretty cool story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Sarah, and happy birthday.
It is my birthday.
You thought I would let that go, wouldn't you?
I'm especially chipper today, so I get to talk to some of my favorite people about data, and on my birthday. So this couldn't be better.
That time away from your family. So thank you, and guys, we'll see you all really soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.